Sarah, Groundhog Day once again for Tottenham Hotspur. We are here yet again. Were you at the game last night?
Hey guys, unfortunately I was. Yes.
Fortunately or unfortunately?
Unfortunately,
Oh,
unfortunately. Yeah, what a horrendous 90 minutes. That was like the worst 90 minutes I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean,
There was no football. There was no football.
Got to see Frank Swan's song at least.
Yeah, it was definitely up there. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was at the game as well, and I just felt when that second goal went in, and then coupled with the West Ham goal going in, I've never felt like that in a stadium before. There was a really dreary atmosphere about it all, and it's just like the reality really settling in, being like, fuck, we can actually go down here.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a turn of atmosphere. I think because we've turned it around so many times before, there was almost like this belief in the back of our mind that we were going to do it again. But you could see, I mean, I was filming Frank on the sidelines and he was shouting at the players and no one was listening to him. No one was listening to him. He was shouting everyone to get back and you could see it. They weren't playing for him. I mean, I know we've had some bad games, but that was the nail in the coffin. Like you could just see they were not playing for him at all. And they'd just given up. There was no football. It was that bad, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're in a tricky situation, which is, I guess, come to a head right now. But this was now in that situation where everyone feared, as if in terms of sack Frank and where do we go. So in terms of that decision that's finally come this morning, do you think that it just had to happen? It was inevitable. This was the moment to let him go.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's people in the chat saying that I backed Frank. I wouldn't say I necessarily was backing Frank. I think because the board backed Frank and then they didn't actually back it up with buying players, you know, they essentially dug their own grave. And look, Frank was probably the most culpable guy in all of this. But at the end of the day, they didn't back him. So they should have just sacked him at the beginning of January to give to at least have the time to bring someone in. You know, that was the thing, because we knew it was bad after the Arsenal game, but they just let it go, and that was just poor decision making. They just made the situation so much worse than what it needed to be, and it's been poor decision making all season. You know,
yeah. Why this moment though? Why has Vinay chose this specific moment to sack Frank when he could have done it on so many multiple occasions? I mean, for me, the West Ham game was the game where he really should have sacked him after that.
Yeah, so I predicted this in my first video because it's so predictable. This is what we do. We wait until the window closes, we don't buy anyone, and then we sack the manager, and then we expect the next guy to perform miracles. That is Spurs. That is what we do. We don't make it easy for ourselves. And we've been in this cycle for years now, you know? For years. I mean, as you guys said, you know, you had Stellini and Mason. I mean, you saw it coming. So why didn't they make the decision earlier? You know, it's almost like they knew it was going to play out like this. So if you wait until the window closes, then you hold off until the summer, and then because the window's closed, you don't need to buy anyone. And so it's an easy scapegoat. And then you just shove it to the next guy, who unfortunately we are now looking for a needle in a haystack. We're looking for a needle. We're looking for a needle in a haystack because I don't know where we go from here. You know, I don't know who can fix this mess. We are in such a bad state. There is no urgency.
Harry's thrown his hat into the ring.
Harry's past it, guys. I just think, I know he loves us and I know he'd come back, but I just think what we need right now, we need four things, right? We need a bit of identity. So someone who's going to come in and reinstate who Tottenham Hotspur is and not be a, you know, Team U version of them up the road, right? We need a direction of where this team is going, like structurally. You need credibility for the fans, because we're not going to take anyone, right? I know we need to get points, but it's going to be the same thing again if we just get Mr. Pragmatist in. And we need results. We need someone who's going to come in and get in those players' faces and get them up for it, get them up for the fight so that we can pick up points, because that's what matters now. That's the most important now of all of it.
For you, when you look at Frank's tenure, where would you say for you has been his biggest failings? What is for you, if there was one main reason for you, what's led to this point for Frank, what would you say it is?
Oh gosh. do we have a list? Look,
you got time, don't worry.
The tactics suck. The tactics suck, right? But I think his biggest failing was the fact that he couldn't get the players on side. He couldn't get them up for it. And the more you think about it, the more you think that Romero's, sending off the other day was almost part of this puzzle piece, because he must have known as the leader, he must have saw it coming. Surely, I just think he hasn't been able to get the players on side. Like, they were not running for him last night. And if you can't get the players to run for you, well, that's it. That's your grave dug.
The thing is, though, like, with that sentiment of like not getting the players to run for him, I mean, they should be running for themselves. They should be running for the fans. They should be running for so many different things, even if if they don't believe in what the manager's trying to do. Like, surely they have a bit of self-respect that they're getting closer and closer into a relegation battle. Granted, they didn't know that West Ham were winning at the time, and yeah, it ended up in a draw, but it was likely that we could go 3 points above the relegation zone. So surely they should have it within themselves. You know what? We're in a really messy situation here. Not only am I putting the manager's job at risk, not only am I putting the club at jeopardy, but also for a sense of bit of personal pride.
Yeah, I think that was gone a long time ago. I think that was gone a long time ago. That's the point. That's the point. It's got that bad. It's got that bad that the players don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Mickey, Spence, they don't want to be here. They don't, they're done, and unfortunately the board let it go on, and they had to see out that transfer window, and then they decided, okay, now's the time. But the damage was done. The damage was already done. I think if maybe they would have made a change back in maybe early December or something like that, yeah, the players would have had fight, but I think they were just too far gone. I mean, we've now heard the rumours, about all the stuff that was going on in the WhatsApp chat. For sure that was an inside job, the Arsenal Cup. Of course it. How does that happen?
It was planted.
Yeah, how does it happen? You're such a big institution. You know that the media is on you. It's got to be. That's all I can think. When you look at it, you're like, how do you get to a point where it gets that bad that the players don't want to play for you anymore? And I think that came back in December.
But it's actually funny that has been part of his downfall, that cup, because there's rumours now that apparently behind the scenes he was constantly talking about Arsenal, how good they are, and apparently he was so obsessed with them that according to one source the players were sick of it, him constantly talking about Arsenal. Then the Arsenal Cup thing happens, and all of a sudden all these memes start flooding in about him being a massive Arsenal fan. But the funny thing is the players thought that more than anyone, apparently, even before that cup moment. So then the players are sharing that around, and that seems to have him lose even more respect.
Yeah, do you know what? I was actually looking into the stats of Arsenal and Spurs this season, and I think both teams, I know we've scored less than them, but statistically we've both scored 50% goals from set pieces and around 30% from open play. So when you look at it from that lens, we're not replicating Arsenal, but the style of play has definitely been something which Frank has said, oh, okay, that's working for them because they're top of the league. They focus on set pieces. It's worked for them. And so we just need to copycat what they're doing and take lessons from that and implement it into our style. Unfortunately for him, Spurs already have their style. It's just that it's been lost, and that identity has just gone with it.
Yeah.
Looking
moving forward, forget about interim, but looking in the summer, obviously that's when we're probably going to appoint the permanent choice. Obviously the songs in the stands, Maurizio Pochettino seems to be week in, week out at this moment in time. Are you an advocate to bring Pochettino back, or is it, don't want to go back and you want to move forward to someone else?
Do you know what, Ben? I was saying I did a live yesterday, and it was funny timing because I was saying I didn't want to tempt fate because I watched the interview with Poch. I was the one who said I don't want to romanticize about our managers, but then I heard him speak, and I just thought to myself, he gets it. He gets it. He gets it. He does. There's no denying that. I don't know whether he's going to have the tools, and I don't think it's going to be just yet. I don't even know if it's going to be this summer, in all honesty. It might be too soon for him because, look, he wants to win the league. And is Enoch going to give any manager the tools to win the league? I'm not convinced. And so is it maybe a bit premature? Maybe the club needs to be sold, or at least needs to sell, to get new owners to give him the chance that he needs, because he will do it. He will do it. If it's not at Spurs, he'll go to United or Chelsea or something, and he'll do it there. So what's worse? Like I think he probably is the guy that we need. I don't know if I don't trust the board.
The thing is with Poch, as much as I love him, as much as I want him back this summer, his decision making isn't the best. He hasn't picked great jobs since leaving Tottenham. Obviously, the Chelsea one, the PSG one. He hasn't made the right choices. So I just feel that his love for Tottenham is just too great that he's just going to jump at the first chance to come back, no matter what state we're in.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Look, he's on his own path. And I was saying it yesterday. He's not the same manager that he was 6 years ago. And you could look at it that he's taken on a series of bad jobs, but you could also look at it that those were all learning experiences for him. He's still a young manager, right? You know, but having now managed PSG, you know, and having now managed top tier talent, to come back to Spurs, you know, someone like Romero, who's also Argentinian, maybe he can get him back on side. Whether Romero's going to be here next season to see it, I don't know, but it is very suspicious timing that he's come out and said all this stuff. I just think it's not going to be now, but maybe the summer. But it's down to the board. Whoever comes in, it's down to the board. The cards are in their hands. Not the card, the checkbook. You know, they've got the money and they're just sitting on it. They're just waiting for the right guy. You know, but at some point you've got to invest first and then back it up. You know?
Absolutely.
I've seen there was a journalist, I think it's Ollie Holt on Twitter. He's of the opinion, is it too much of a risk to gamble on an interim to keep us up and then wait for Poch? Do we need someone now to come in who we believe in can be that next manager? I understand you're saying it's like a needle in a haystack, it's hard to find, but if there is someone out there who, even if you have to give him a 2-year deal, that we can get who we could be a good manager in the future, do we have to just gamble on it now? Or do you think it's worth the gamble, interim, see if we can find and wait for Poch?
So they brought in John Heitinga, right? And that seemed like very suspicious timing. Like, I'm almost tempted to think that they brought him in because they knew that this was going to happen. Because why did they not do that at the beginning of the season? I don't know, maybe there was a reason for it.
Well, he was manager of Ajax.
Yeah, and also I guess we had movement as well, and Matt Wells left, and maybe, you know, the coaching staff sort of changed backroom. But it seemed suspicious, you know, the timing of it, that they bring him in and then I think he's going to get the next couple of games, I think. I don't know, look, they've got 12 days to figure it out, but it's not impossible that he's going to be the next guy, and he's not the answer.
There's also a conspiracy theory on Johnny Heitinga that he was brought in that, you know, they know Slot's going to be losing his job at some time soon, and obviously he worked as number 2 under Slot for Liverpool.
Slot, Klopp, Steve Bruce is available. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could go through them all. Like, the list is endless. Look, De Zerbi, I don't know, last time you guys just said Maresca was the top choice. I've heard De Zerbi was up in the list as well. Look, he's maybe a bit proactive, but either way, we need to be patient with whoever comes in. We need identity and we need direction. And so even someone like De Zerbi is a bit of a risk. And I think from what I've heard rumours is that he didn't want to come to Spurs because he doesn't like the board. So that's not going to be a match made in heaven. You know, anyone that comes in, they need to be on board with the board. So I don't know who's going to be on board with it, you know.
Absolutely.
It's a really messy situation.
It's a scary situation. Like the first time in a game, I felt scared. I've never felt scared in a Spurs game before, but last night
Ben,
I felt scared.
I saw the tears in your eyes. And I thought to myself, I feel your pain. You know, I saw the comments, the trolls in the comments, but it's serious. Like, it's serious. We've got to fight for points now, you know, and I was saying, you know, when Stell was on, we were saying, you know, 9 points and whatever. But look, that's how quickly things can turn in football. And if you don't get up for a relegation fight, that is what's going to happen. And a manager needs to come in and get in those players' faces. They need to, whoever it is, they can't be Mr. Nice Guy like Frank. You know, he was too nice. He was a pushover.
And they walked
over.
You know,
and you can't have that character when you've got egos in the dressing room.
And we've got another injury today, ACL to Wilson Odebear. He's going to be out for a long time. Like, wherever manager comes in, how do we navigate this unbelievable injury crisis that we seem to find ourselves in again? Like, what do we do about this? Like, do the players we have, do you believe they're enough to keep us up? The players available?
The only thing you can do is bring in the kids. You need to bring in the kids. And I'm not joking, because we're not going to have a first team. We are not going to have a first team. Look, maybe we're going to get a bit lucky, and maybe Porro's going to come back in, maybe Richie, but you're still looking like a couple of games away. So Arsenal's going to be a tough ask, for sure. But look, maybe you need Byfield in the squad. You know, maybe I don't know what happened to Gallagher yesterday. If that was just really poor decision making, or if he got somehow injured, because
I think he was playing on the wing, and he seemed like he was puffing from when he went off, and he got taken off straight away after that mistake. Would you consider Raheem Sterling for 6 months on a free?
if he's a body, would I want him? No, but is he a body who's going to come in, who's more experienced than Williams Barnett? Sure. Sure, because you need bodies. You need legs. That is what we need. You need rotation. Like, at the end of the day, we are still in Champions League. So, okay, this month we've got a bit of a break, but you're still going to need rotation. You know, you're still going to need players to come in. And now Odebear's out. Who else are you going to play? Like, you've got no one unless you completely change formation. But then you're going to go back to a defensive style. So you've either got to choose the kids, or you've got to take something's got to give. Something's got to give, because if nothing changes, nothing's going to change. That's what I said yesterday.
Because Frank has blamed the form and the style of play on the injuries. That's what he said yesterday. Anyway, he was asked directly. He said it's because of the injuries. I haven't said anything up until now. Maybe he's realised he's on his last legs and he's trying to throw any excuse at the wall. But he's saying he's blaming the injuries. But for you, what are the chances that he is right? Maybe it is the injuries, and that's why we are playing the way we are.
Yeah, of course, that's part of it. Nothing's in isolation. Everything's connected. But look, we said the same about Ange last year, and Ange got all the heat, you know. But the problem now has just worsened because we didn't get the reinforcements that we needed. We bought some players in the summer, but it wasn't enough. We all knew it wasn't enough. We said we wanted like 5 players, and I think we got 3, and 2 of those were on loan. 2 on loan. Moani was on loan.
Well, 4,
so
Moani and Palini are on loan, yeah.
We've got Kudus.
Yeah, so we always knew that we were going to be short, but that combined with the fact that we sold Johnson and we've let go of Dane Scarlett, you know, and we haven't brought any of the kids back, just leaves that gap even further. It just widens the gap. And the board knew what they were doing. This is why I don't understand. This is why I just think like the board don't know what they're doing, because why would you let go of Scarlett, let him go on loan? You know, why would you let go of Johnson and then keep the manager and then have to find someone else and play in this mess? You know, they've only got themselves to blame.
Absolutely. And, you know, you're looking back at the stadium yesterday, how empty that stadium was. I don't think I've been to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and seen how, I mean, probably the most empty since it's opened. Let's be real.
Really?
I think so.
Officially, it was 59,000.
Nah, bullshit.
No, it wasn't.
Bullshit.
It wasn't. And do you know what, Ben? We were joking on the way home, obviously, before Frank was sacked. We were all saying none of us wanted to go to the Arsenal game in a couple of weeks. Like, even I was like, I've had enough. I don't want to go to the Arsenal game, and I'll go to every game.
I don't think that's a joke.
No, we were joking about the fact that the only people who are going to buy the tickets are the Gooners.
Yeah.
And I was saying I'm going to have to rebrand my channel because it's not going to be Spurs in the stands. Yeah. We're going to be another club from the stands because there's going to be no one there. There's going to be no one there. They have misread the room so bad.
It's madness.
Now with Frank gone,
I was on the high road an hour before kickoff, and it was a ghost town. I've never seen it so empty. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And like, this is more into the ownership as well. Like, a ticket in the lower South Stand yesterday cost north of £85. £85 to see that dross against 16th against 14th, wherever it was. The corresponding Arsenal for Newcastle at home in the same kind of seats cost £45.
Really? Wow.
How mad is that?
Double the price, basically.
Yeah, and they get the cup games included in their season tickets anyway. Like, we don't even get the cup games included.
But it just shows you how out of touch this club is.
Yeah. I mean, we were saying the same. I was actually surprised because it did fill out, but it was very, very late. I mean, I was filming 5 minutes before, and it was completely empty. And people did pile in a little bit later, but that means people weren't spending money in the stadium. You know, there was no one around, there was no atmosphere, you know, no one was, everyone who was there because they had a season ticket, or they'd managed to get one off their mates. And I don't think the people around us were Spurs fans, to be completely honest. Like, they weren't cheering when Newcastle scored.
I had
but
a few
don't think they were
Newcastle
Spurs
fans around me cheering when they scored. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Really? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we know there was a couple in the South Stand. We heard a few people, but it's been like that. It was like that last season. It was the same thing. People couldn't get rid of their tickets.
But at least, yeah, that's true. But at least last season we literally had nothing to play with in the Premier League. Now we actually are in the midst of a relegation battle. There's actually a lot on the line. If you're gonna look into your crystal ball, Sarah, look in 3 months' time, May, whatever, end of the season. Do you think this decision we've made today to sack Frank, has that saved us from relegation or condemned us to relegation?
I think it was probably a decision that was made too late. I don't think we will go down. Well, look, never say never. But I think the player, at the very least, the least that we can expect is the player's attitude will change. Because they haven't been playing for the manager. So look, even if the tactics aren't great, even if we haven't got this identity yet, at the very least, now they show character because they're playing for themselves, not because there is no manager to play for. So I think if they were to show up and put in a couple of performances, if we can take a couple of, point from Fulham and Leeds, and look, Leeds, they're drawing against Chelsea, they understand the dogfight, and as long as they themselves can get up for it. I mean, I heard Solanke in the interview after the game. He wasn't talking about relegation. He wasn't worried. He was just talking as if it was another loss. I don't know if they understand the gravity. So, in answer to your question, I think the nail in the coffin was already done. I think this was just an inevitability, and unfortunately, they couldn't hold on till summer, and they would force their hand. Whether it's going to be their downfall or not, well, that's down to Enoch to decide, because they put themselves in this position, and look, as fans, we don't want us to go down, but they get whatever they deserve.
Yeah.
They get whatever they deserve. It was their choice.
It's a proper Hail Mary, this, I feel.
It really is. It really is.
And you could
playing
even
with
say
fire.
you could even say that this wasn't even, Vinay's decision to hire Frank because Levy was still in charge. That's how they'll spin it. Yeah, we had all these new check boxes and everything, and he ticked all the check boxes, but really it was down to Levy. So he's still going to be the scapegoat. They're gonna spin it. They're a press machine.
But surely Vinay, from the board's point of view, when he is literally comes out in the summer, says we had a 30-man checklist, 30-man shortlist. We have with each candidate having a 10-point checklist to tick, and Thomas Frank ticked every box. He was the outstanding candidate, and he was our choice. One of the checks of the checklist was playing attacking, front-footed football. He said that clearly, and surely that whole process has to come under major scrutiny from the board and said, what the hell was that? What was your process? Because this has been an utter disaster.
Yeah. And I mean, look, Sim, this is the thing, right? Statistics and analysis can only tell you so much. And when you go so far on the pragmatism route, right, you've got people at the top who are pragmatists, who hire the pragmatists. You forget that football is a game of emotion. As much as it is about, playing football and all of that, it's emotion. And so they need to win the emotional support of the fans for it to work.
Yeah.
Paul COYS said before the game, I filmed it, and he said, the heart of the club is the fans. The fans are the club. If you don't have the fans, you have no club. And I think it was a misjudgment on their part, because you can have 20 check boxes, but this is not a normal business. This is the football business. And this is where they don't understand football. And that is a massive gap that's been left at the top, unfortunately, that Levy's gone. So Levy's probably sitting there now going, right, do I sell my stake today or tomorrow? Has my shares gone up yet now Frank's gone?
Sarah, an absolute pleasure. Everyone go and subscribe to Spurs from the Stands. But thank you for coming on today.
Nice to see you,
Thanks.
Sarah.
So, thanks for having me on better occasions in future. Let's hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice one.
Take care, guys.
Bye.